on one hit line drive.
Want to lose weight?
All right, my dude. Let me see here. Hey, Kyle, I know you're listening in. Quick check here. Kyle, ladies and gentlemen, as we're doing a live stream, we're in two parts of a big warehouse in southern Utah. I want to make sure we're all good. Says we're good to go. Our next speaker, Dan Clark. We met on Grindr. We both swiped right. We both had some of the same, I think, same interests. Long walks on the beach, dusty kneecaps, and a bad shoulder, and also an uncanny likeness to Bernie Mac. Often both of us get referred to. One people think we're Bernie Mac, or really think he's Batman or I'm Robin. We both wear tights, and yeah, I mean, I don't really know a better introduction than that. He was the 37th man on the moon. He was in the notorious rap group The Outlaws with Tupac before Tupac broke from the Outlaws. And people don't know that about him. He's a gangster rapper. And he has a third leg and sometimes balances backwards on a tripod just to make sure he's buoyant. But other than that, like, I don't know that I don't have an intro for you that would do you justice, my man. You've reached tens of millions of people. You're a master storyteller. You're a professor. You are devilishly good looking. You are, for people that people's parents or people now that read, you're going to the stories and the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Dan has been a key contributor to that series. He has written speeches for and coached professional athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he did his ESPY speech. The guy has done so many things. His best accolade, though, is probably right in the preface to that best-selling book he was holding up there called "You Should See the Other Guy." I think that's his probably biggest accomplishment. It's probably the thing he's most proud of. Ladies and gentlemen, Dan Clark. Yeah, I gotta juice up. Today's show sponsored by Rockstar Lemonades, because they're not, but I buy enough of them, or they should just send me a refrigerator. Danny, how are you, brother? I have not seen you in a long time. We have not spoken in a while. For people that don't know you, how do you introduce yourself?
You know, the older I get, brother, the more I realize what Dr. Jim Rohn taught us all so many years ago, that we become the average of the 5 people we associate with the most, which means we must be willing to pay any price and travel any distance to associate with extraordinary human beings. And having said that, you know, you and I haven't really even talked, I don't know how long, a year, maybe more, I don't know. But as soon as we reconnect, it's like no time has gone by, which is the sign of a true relationship that validates that if we hang around with the right people, when they're supposed to show up in our lives, they do. And when we're supposed to show up in their lives, we do, just like you were saying in your preamble before you went on the air with Neva. And as I become more of a closet philosopher, what I've realized is that we're all in a human orbit, and then there's a divine rendezvous. So human orbits and divine rendezvous, which means the universe, God, I'm a man of faith, whatever you want to call the lack of coincidence, which is a master plan. People are put in our path for specific reasons, and things happen to us in our lives for specific reasons, exactly like you were talking about before I came on the air officially. But we all are so easily tied into the phrase, things happen for a reason. But I believe that, except in an upper level thought process, things happen for a reason, but it's our responsibility to determine what that reason is. And ever since I met you, I know the reason why we were brought together in crazy circumstances that we don't have to explain. We were just brought together was to do something larger than ourselves and to be one of those Stephen Jobs crazies enough to think we can change the world. So when you ask me how to define myself, it's not about what I've done. I would rather be introduced as someone who is continuously becoming, who has a resume different this year than it was last year. You know, with all due respect, I don't want anybody to do the math, but back in the 80s, I was on the program in Vail, Colorado with a guy who climbed Mount Everest in 1982. And he had cool pictures. And he had some extraordinary stories. But I think this was 1989, maybe 1990. And after he left and I followed him as a speaker, I just said, and it was a real high level leadership deal. We went to the top of the mountain in Vail on the ski lift. And I said, you know, with all due respect, what has he done lately? You know, he climbed Mount Everest and good on him. But dude, you know, what's up? And we have got to understand in this COVID-19 so-called crisis is that it's not a crisis. Crisis does not make or break the man or woman. It just reveals the true character within Kolby. It's not a pandemic. It's a pause and purge. It's an opportunity for us to evaluate what's going on. What's our current reality? What limiting beliefs have we had? Eliminate those limiting beliefs by associating with the right kind of people who think like we think, and then elevating our performance because we can. And too many people, I keep hearing it after all these months, when are we going to get back to normal? Everybody's so excited to rush back to normal. And I want to interrupt and say, wait, what part of normal is worth rushing back to? Maybe I could just throw out a little quick story that's happened just since we've talked that I think is so powerful to introduce our conversation, because I really want to shut up and have you ask me provocative questions. You're so good, the best interviewer I've ever been around. So you've been in my home. You've met my children, your Uncle Kolby, obviously, and we play a game when we get together as family. Kids flew in from out of town, and we're around the formal dining room. They've invited some of their friends to join us. And we're playing this family game, this icebreaker called Remember When. And somebody says, I remember when I was 9 when this happened. And I remember when I was 14 and this happened. And it comes to my turn. And I remember when I came home from high school with a report card, had 4 F's and 1 D on it. My dad's response, son, looks to me like you're spending too much time on one subject. My mom thought I cheated. We all have different memories that have molded us into the men we are. And then all of a sudden, going around the table, we came to my daughter's friend and she starts crying. She starts sobbing. I said, are you okay? She goes, no. My daughter puts her arm around her, consoles her. I said, what's up? She said, I'm 31 years old. I just got divorced. I just got fired from my job and my mother was just diagnosed with breast cancer. And through her sob, she says, I've hit rock bottom. And talk about the wisdom of youth. Talk about Neva and her profound answers to your questions and about self-love. And I just love the little girl. And I met her when she was about 8 or 7 as well. But I'm so proud of my daughter who was her friend. And in her flash of wisdom, she said, you know what? No one ever hits rock bottom. We hit rock foundation. We hit rock belief. And I chimed in, yeah, we hit the core values on which we were raised. And when any organization hits a bump in the road or the economy goes south like it is right now in this pivot, our organizations don't hit rock bottom. They hit baseline governing principles on which they were built. So the question that you have always begged from every conversation in your own clever way, Kolby, is, are your beliefs strong enough, deep enough, and true enough to empower you, to equip you to respond to rapid change? And I can't think of anyone on the planet. Remember, I was paralyzed playing football for 14 months. 16 doctors told me I'd never get any better. Now that I've recovered, I'm asked 2 questions, most frequently asked questions. Clark, why did you go to 16 doctors? And the answer is I kept going from doctor to doctor until I found one who believed I would get better. The purpose of a leader is to grow more leaders who believe what you believe, not generate more followers. And the second question is, if you were going to get better, Clark, what took you so long? What's holding you back? And as you've heard me tell my story, I stayed paralyzed for 14 months because I was asking the wrong questions. I was asking the doctors how to get better when I should have been asking myself why. And once we answer why, figuring out the how to becomes clear and simple. And when your why is bigger than your why not, you'll figure out a way to persevere. You know, you and I both have a serious love for the military, and I've been downrange now 8 times, Iraq, Afghanistan, you know, down to the combat zones, firing up our troops and just going where they are in harm's way to thank them, make them laugh and think and feel and cry a little bit. And because of our involvement with the military, we're so aware of this challenge that so many veterans face, that it is called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And as I've delved into that and really tried to participate and just be a reminder and be that life coach and just be that support system, I now realize that the new science has eliminated the D. It's not PTSD anymore. The new science is not a disorder. It's not a syndrome. It's PTS, post-traumatic stress, which all of us have experienced to some degree in our lives. And the way we recover now, the new science tells us to look at it as an injury. Because when we look at it as an injury, it changes our perception and our energy towards believing that we can actually deal with the challenge and overcome it and heal. And I've broken my neck and my back and my nose, my jaw. I've had 2 hernias. Excuse me, that's funny. I've had my knees operated on 7 times. And every single time I've been injured, if I go through the proper steps of rehabilitation, every part of my body that was injured becomes stronger than it was before I injured it. And that includes our hearts. That includes our attitudes. But we have to surround ourselves with the Kolbys who remind us, like I had the fortunate friends, 5, who said, Clark, you can't quit. It's a league rule. You know, no matter what your past has been, you have a spotless future. You can't always control what happens, but you can always control what happens next. Hang in there, baby. In 2 more days, tomorrow's yesterday. Lyrics to one of my tunes. So what we have to do in this pivot is to examine our beliefs and then tune into programs. Remember what I said, we must be willing to pay any price and travel any distance to associate with extraordinary human beings, even on Zoom calls, even on Meltdown in the Desert 2020, which is in a remote economy with virtual keynotes and our amazing host. You are so famous and you've taught me and inspired me for so long, Kolby, that in this pivot, in this remote economy, I can speak for you. I know I can right now, where both of us and so many watching and so many speakers on the program. Bryce is coming on and Dom is coming on. These guys that I met at your Meltdown, forever friends. We all are dedicated to preserving the live experience. And that's what's allowed me to keep scheduling these virtual keynotes that are at least keeping the wolves away from the door and Cheerios on my table. So I didn't mean to pontificate for so long. Interrupt me, man. You should have, I know in person you would have kicked me, gone, Clark, calm down. Let's ask a second question.
No,
because you're not in my library talking, baby.
I got 2 questions. I know I got 2 questions. I'm like, how much time do we have? I got 2 questions. That'll fill in an hour. Like, I don't have to say much, man.
You're such a bad man.
I love you, dude. I love you. Let me ask you, let's from one of your song lyrics, what's behind you, dude? Do you have an Oscar? What is that? Do you have a Grammy? What's behind you on the shelf? You have an award for something. It
I got
looks
a
like
lot of them, man. This is my
Look at a ton of them.
room. This is my man cave. You've been here before.
I love that. That's one of my favorite rooms any house I've ever been in.
I've been in the Olympic torch. I have all the models of the bombers and fighter jets that I've flown, and I don't know what you're. No, oh, I know what you're looking. That was Utah Father of the Year.
I say world's best dad or something. Your kids gave
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it cost me more than you can imagine, but I proudly display it next to your book cover.
I love it. I love it. You have the best book covers, by the way. I'm gonna post some of them later. There, some like one of your first. What book is it? You have the mullet, and they have the you should have a headband on in that book. You don't.
Getting High, How to Really Do It. Jimmy Fallon threw me under the bus.
Mm-hmm.
It was a Monday night. I'm in bed. My phone starts lighting up. Clark, you're on Jimmy Fallon. I'm texting him back. No, I'm not. I'm laying in bed. They said, no, man, he's talking about your book. So I clicked on the Tonight Show just in time. He had done the trailer just in time, and he says, yeah, now we're to the section on our show where we highlight books you should never read. And he said the first book's a self-help book, and his sidekick goes, that's a good place to start. And Jimmy Fallon pulls my book cover up and he goes, yeah, Getting High, How to Really Do It. I'm like, oh, dude, he gives me 58 seconds of just making fun of my about the author. I listed my injuries, and so funny. So I immediately called my publicist and I said, man, you got to get me on Jimmy Fallon, man. He just dissed my book and I get equal time. And she goes, what's your angle? I said, I'll let you know. So that was Monday. Wednesday at 10:30 in the morning to Rockefeller Center, New York City, where the Tonight Show is. I'd gotten the names of the 6 producers of the show, and I had an edible fruit basket delivered to the lobby, and it's edible because now the receptionist, the security guard, has to deliver it. It can't just sit there all day. I knew they were going to take it up. And I coordinated with Federal Express to have my box delivered at 10:30 so both gifts could be delivered to the producers at the same time. And in the box I put 11 of my other books, 11 books in the box with a note that said, thanks for the shout out on the Tonight Show, but why stop now? I've written at least 11 other books that no one should ever read, and I want to come on the show and explain why. I got books that can make you throw up and you'll lose weight. I got books that will put you right to sleep. Man, I am the doctor in the house. And then I've kind of held off. I got some cool things coming up, so I don't want to get on the Tonight Show until I can, tune them into what's really happening in my new branding. But man, that's just funny. You would bring that up, you dog.
I love it. I love it. You traveled. You had the opportunity to go borderline to space. Like, I don't know I don't know personally. I don't know any astronauts. I know people who've worked on rockets. I don't know if been in the sky that high. You've had an opportunity. It's an awesome video to watch where you didn't bring a GoPro. It's kind of pre GoPro. You brought a camera with you. Yeah. You jumped in a jet and you went to kind of the edge of the planet. Yeah. Tell me about that experience, because there's an interesting thing that kind of happens when you hit the end of the atmosphere before you go to space. Like, tell me about that.
Yeah, it's a classified mission, but let's just say it's 70,000 feet. You see 2/3 of the state of California. At 80,000 feet, you see mapped outlines of America. And at 90,000 feet, I sat there in the sounds of silence for 5 hours looking at the curvature of the earth. I could see the blue turn to black, the sacred sensitivity of the ozone. And when you're in that environment, gazing into the endless blackness of space, it changes your life, man, because you start asking questions like, really? Like, more than choose your battles. Like, what's it really all about? Why are we on this planet? Are we more than mere mortal beings living on a small planet for a short season? What's our mission? It's more than a 5-hour sortie. And when we landed, it changed my life. I realized, everything I can take with me, everything we can all take with us when we die, I had aboard with me on that aircraft. Our education, our our character. Adversity introduces us to ourselves. No one ever knows how strong we are until being strong is our only choice. Kolby 101. Our convictions, how deeply do we believe? I have to revisit that, bro. What we have to do in this pandemic situation is stop focusing on a strategic direction, like what's going to happen next, or where am I going now, or let me plan for the future. We've got to stop right now and answer, where are you today? It's like ordering an Uber ride that requires that we enter in our current location. If we lie about where we are, the directions won't work. We've got to come to grips with our belief right now, our understanding, and deepen it, prepare ourselves for the next pivot. And that's about character. And the last thing we take with us when we die is, did our lives matter? Did we make a difference? And that's why you inspire me, bro. You're always trying to figure out a way to serve others, and to have every one of us leave you saying, I like me best when I'm with you. I want to see you again. So I don't know what kind of an answer you're trying to milk from me from that experience. You can check it out, 15-minute documentary on YouTube, Dan Clark, Spy Plane. But I'm telling you what, we only need a few of those experiences in our lives to mold us into the people we really were born to be. Psychologists call them SEE experiences, significant emotional experiences. And I challenge everyone within the sound of our voices to pause and identify some C experiences in your life so you can take the time to learn the lessons. Pain is a signal to grow, not to suffer. Once we learn the lesson, the pain teaches us, the pain goes away in life. There's no mistakes, only lessons. You never lose if you always learn. Take time to evaluate how we've been bamboozled and mold the lesson into something that applies to you. For example, if you spend your whole day wondering if your glass is half empty or half full, you've missed the point. It's refillable. Thinking positive or thinking negative does not fill up the glass. The pouring does. It's easier to act your way into positive thinking than it is to think your way into positive action. So we need to take time to pause and what have you learned? And what I've learned is that we better do something so every time everyone leaves us saying, I like me best when I'm with you, I want to see you again. I like me best when I'm with you, I want to see you again. And that holds true not just in our personal relationships, but in our professional experience. And that's how we cut through the clutter and figure out who we really want in our top 5 and who we really want in our next 5 and in our next 5. And Kolby, I think about you a lot, man. And what's so crazy is we have not talked for at least 12 months. And out of the clear blue, somebody posts your amazing video montage of Meltdown in the Desert from 2017. I'm looking at it. I know some of the folks. Because of you, I met Sean Whalen. Because of you, I've met so many people that I still keep in touch with. Justin Meyer and Frank Shell and all these superstars that I had a chance to meet. Dom coming up. Like I said, Bryce, you'll laugh your guts out. But because I didn't make the video highlight film, because of our friendship, I reached out and I said, bro, dude, you dissed me, man. I didn't even make the freaking video. And you immediately, text back and said, Clark, that's an old video. You weren't even in that one, man. And you don't have footage from 2018 when we gathered together and did our best to change the world. But because of that, we're here today. I didn't know you had a 2020. I've been so blooming crazy busy doing all the different kinds of stuff, launching my new website, danclark.com. Y'all need to check it out. That I haven't even checked Facebook for a while. I haven't even, for a week, maybe 10 days, I didn't even go on social media. And all of a sudden, I reach out to you because I tuned back in and saw this video, Green-Eyed Monster, like, come on, bro, show a little love. How can a brother, hook up a brother? And all of a sudden you text me and say, hey, let me see if I can open up a slot for you and you can jump on. And this means so much to me. But again, human orbits, divine rendezvous. There's somebody listening today without flattering me. I'm flattering you at least. There's somebody listening today who is hurting as badly as I was when I was paralyzed physically and emotionally. somebody tuned in right now who's that close to a divorce, that close to taking his or her life, that close to giving up. And because of our rendezvous for some bigger than ourselves reason, maybe something we can say will make people laugh. I mean, come on. My Aunt Lucy, when she was 63 years old, she started walking 5 miles every day. Now she's 91 and we don't know where she is. Ha! I think that's funny. Let's have a good laugh.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, hey, so for people that are listening, I paid Dan handsomely to say nice things about me. I've never met him. I just heard, there's those services where you can hire a professional to say nice things about you. They're also the same people.
I'm gonna have to hire people to cry at my drive-by funeral.
Well, you're also the guy that I hire that dresses in all black, that's mysterious at the funeral, that stands with an umbrella and nobody knows you, but you don't say anything.
Yeah, with sunglasses, with an earplug that's hooked to nothing, so they think you're famous.
That's right. That's right. Like, who is that guy? I don't know. It means, I really appreciate you saying that. It's, the purpose of doing this event. It has always been like, my mantra is if I can help one person every day. And sometimes that bites me in the butt and sometimes it doesn't. I don't ever do it I don't help people with the intention of get back. I don't give to get. And I learned at 18 the karmic scales are in your favor when you're doing more for other people, and I want to keep it more positive than negative, like helping more than hurting. The interesting part about the 2018, that was a weird year, dude. That was the year that I was separated from my ex-wife. Like, that all happened. The book came out, the event happened, and I went through a separation on the same weekend. I don't think people understand that. Like, it all happened literally within like a 4-day period, like getting the book back from editing and getting the copies to like putting an event together for 600-700 people. And then my personal life, it's interesting because in those scenarios, you find out who your friends are. Like, when it's all said and done, it's like, I don't remember a ton of people. I can count on one hand the amount of people that called me and said, "Hey man, how are you?" And I take that I say it's hard not to take that kind of stuff personal, right? It's I'm a sensitive guy, and sometimes, it's hard when you give so much to feel almost like they just, at the end of the day, you're kind of disposable. But I know that going into it, I don't do it for the give back. So it was a weird year. I've used this analogy a couple times, and when I was on the book tour speaking, I used this as like one of my slides. There's a Harvard study that tells you that essentially outlines, when do we as humans, like at what age are we kind of set in our ways? Like, we've got the ways that we think, the way that we show up, the way we're in relationships, the way our religious beliefs, our ideas about money, about self-worth, and that age is 25. So by the time we get to 25, from that point on, we're kind of wired the way we're going to be wired, unless one of three things happens to you. One, there's a health scare, like you go through some kind of a major health thing, right? So I like to use cancer, because cancer, from a bystander perspective, if you've ever had a family member or friend that's been diagnosed that went through some heavy treatment, it affects everybody, and everybody gets ravished by it. That rewires you. Like, you look at things different when you survive something, or if you're a family member that goes through and loses somebody. The other one's financial. You go through like a job loss, you lose your job, you go bankrupt, you don't have any money. The financial aspects of like losing your financial stability, there's a lot of self-worth there. So when you go through a major financial change, that will rewire you. And then the third one is heartbreak. And that heartbreak can be in like, a traditional, like a marriage or a relationship. It can be in, there's a lot of different ways that kind of shows up. I've had all three of those things happen to me. They happened to me twice within like a 4-year period. And, people will say like, "Dude, you're different." So yeah, I'm different. Well, first off, good. Like I hope I'm different. I hope I'm not the same guy. The other piece of it is the evolution of really trying to understand really what's most important, right? And I think, having had gone through those sets of experiences before the pandemic has been a big deal. One of the things that I learned is there's 1.6 gallons of water in a toilet. That's one of the biggest things I've learned in the last 2 years. And you're like, what does that mean? 1.6. I had to make decisions on paying utilities or paying for groceries. And it takes 1.6 gallons of water to fill a toilet. I know this because I went and bought 15-gallon jugs of water, and I live by a national park. So what I would do is when the national park guys would leave, I would drive in and I would use the showers, and I would use the pumps, the clean water pumps, and I would fill these 15 gallons of water up. I did that every day for 4 weeks until the next bit of money came in to where I could pay to have the utilities put back on. And in that, we had no power, no water, had some food. You can't put food in the refrigerator, right? I was doing some marketing and some event stuff at a restaurant. So like I could just bring food home. So that's how I was eating. That's how we were eating. And in the middle of all of those things, if I would have looked back to a year previously, I really would have been upset. I like to shower a couple times a day. I love my cold AC. It's a summer in a desert, no running water. It's like, I'm working around food. It's like all of the scenarios were pretty like crappy. When I put all those scenarios together, I think between Elisa and I, there was only one meltdown each of us had in a 5-week period. That's pretty good. Is I realized that I had every single thing that I needed. Like I had clean water, we were eating, I had a car that worked. It's like we had income, we had money that was coming in. It just wasn't, all of it wasn't there yet. All the seeds of like rebuilding were happening. And those are times you'd be like ashamed and afraid. And it's like, you wouldn't want people to know. And it's like, I'm proud to tell you, I know how many gallons of water in a toilet, because I was manually getting water and refilling the toilet every single day, sometimes twice a day with water jugs. It's no matter how bad we think that it is, we have everything that we need. And when we can readjust the thinking, and it's hard, like it's taken me 45 years to get to a point where I can at least start to lead with this thinking, is when you realize you have those things in that base, it allows you then to go prosper more. It allows you, instead of thinking you're in a scarcity mindset, you're in abundance, and it allows you to create abundance. But like you said, it's work. So you're going to manifest. And I think something great's going to happen, and it does. You have to go do it. Right.
Absolutely. And to define a significant emotional experience, what a significant emotional experience is something that we can actually quantify how we thought and believed and how we behaved before it occurred, and how we now think differently and behave differently because it occurred. So the two operative words are before and because, before and because. And when we can actually pause long enough to learn the lessons, just like you just did, you shared your story, your journey, you stopped, just like we do in a fighter jet after the 60, 90-minute sortie. Before you take off, you say, okay, here's what we're going to do. When I flew with the Thunderbirds, here's what we're going to do. Here are the air show maneuvers. Here's what's going to happen. Here's the order. But then when you land, you say what worked, what didn't, and why. Let's fix what's broken so we can become better in our next flight. And that's what's so powerful about you, man. Resiliency is so critically important. Let me just compliment you in another way, bro. If we're really going to change who we are and change our circumstances and control our destiny, we have to really change who we are. And too many of us are just changing our behavior. We walk around with a negative mindset, a scarcity mindset, and put a smile on ourselves and act like it's an abundance mentality. And when the things we think about and believe in are different than the things we do, we'll never be happy. So if you and I are college roommates and we decide, okay, we're going to wake up at 6:30 in the morning to study, and we only do it because we're changing our behavior, guaranteed. But if I wake up at 6:30 in the morning, regardless if you do or not, I've changed my nature. I've changed who I really am. And being the same on stage as we are off stage and the same off stage as we are on stage is the critical lesson in all of this world in which we live. Regardless if you're a performer, a speaker, or, you know, a serial entrepreneur like you, it doesn't matter what hat we have on. We have to have congruency and be consistent. And you're one of the ones in my life. You know, I have to tell you, you're one of the top 5, top 10. I can't say you're the number 1 or you wouldn't believe me, but because of your nature, I know, but because of your nature, if I say you're one of the top 5 people in my life, you know, as far as reminding me about resiliency and focusing in on what matters most and family first and mission always, I have to say you're one of the top 5 because that forces you to say, okay, who are the other 4, man? I want to meet them. I want to know what they got over me.
That's right.
That's just funny to me.
I appreciate you, dude.
So how can I help? How can I serve you, bro? How can I help you? I want everybody to go to my website, danclark.com, snoop around, buy one of my 35 books. I've written 35 books, bro. And remember, I haven't said I've written 35 good books, but I have written 35 books. And as a compliment to you, I want to share this this quote. I had and I've been teaching public speaking at the university level, MBA level for 10 years. I just started my Zoom classes 2 weeks ago at the university here in Utah. And last year, or actually it's been, time's gone by, there was a girl murdered at the University of Utah in the parking lot. And she was in my class. She was one of my students, Lauren McCluskey. I honor her and her family. And it was so tragic and so crazy. And I wrote a tribute that went virtual, and her mother phoned me and asked me to fly up to Pullman, Washington and speak at her funeral. What an honor as a professor. I couldn't do it. I was in New York, but the track coach, she was an amazing track star. And he called me and asked me if he could use part of my tribute to read at the memorial service. I've kept in touch with her family. And in that memorial, in that tribute, as I was trying to find a quote that would epitomize the legacy she left as this extraordinary young woman. It was just crazy. She was a pentathlete, you know, she participated in 7 events and amazing. I came across a quote by Sir Terry Pratchett. And one of the things that you remind me about, bro, that I want to really hit home for all the listeners so that they know the true Kolby, is that the power of our belief, the power of a dream. And when you lose your dreams, you die. That's why we have so many people walking the halls of life who are dead and they don't even know it yet. They die at 25, they're buried at 63, so to speak. And somehow you've always been able to be resilient and inspire all of us. And you've put a different twist on the word dead. And putting into the context of the tribute I wrote for beautiful Lauren McCluskey, let me just quote Terry Pratchett, because you'll understand the operative word in our relationship and in your relationship with the rest of the world is ripples. Your ripple effect is unlike most that I've ever met, Kolby.
I appreciate that.
And so Richard Pratchett, he says, no one is finally dead until the ripples they cause in the world die away, until the clock wound up winds down, until the wine he made has finished its ferment, until the crop he has planted is harvested. The span of someone's life is only the core of their actual existence. So, man, you know, if I was a fighter, I would want you in my corner, because you live by get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. But in the context of our crazy relationship, we got to put a little humor into that. This guy decides he wants to be the heavyweight champion of the world, but he's really not into working out. So he finds himself a positive thinking trainer. And it works out perfectly because he doesn't have to go to the gym one day and the guy sets him up with his first fight. And wouldn't you know, it's against this giant, big, massive champion. The fight starts, round 1, the guy goes out into the middle of the ring and this big guy just starts to beat the crap out of him. At the end of round 1, he gets back up off the mat, crawls to the corner, sits back up on his stool. He looks up at his positive thinking trainer and says, how am I doing? Trainer says, oh man, you're doing great, Kolby. You know, Just keep doing what you're doing. Just keep thinking positive. The guy hasn't even hit you yet. Kolby says, okay. Round 2 starts. The guy starts where he left off. Just keeps beating the crap out of him. Knocks him to the ground. Leaves him in a pool of blood. Round 2, ding, it's over. Kolby crawls back to the corner, slithers back up to his stool. He's sitting there. He looks up at his positive thinking trainer and he says, how am I doing? His trainer said, man, you're doing great. Just keep doing what you're doing. Keep thinking positive. The guy hasn't even hit you yet. Kolby says, well, okay, but could you keep an eye on the referee because somebody out there is beating the hell out of me. So true.
I love it.
True, bro. You should be the other guy. I'm so proud to be your friend.
Oh, dude, I love you, man. I really appreciate you. I appreciate you saying all those nice things. People are going to think there's something going on here. My man, so we're going to send people to danclark.com. I didn't know you had a new website built. I can't wait to go give it a look as well. Appreciate you, man. I honor you. You've been a mentor and somebody who I've looked up to since the day I met you. You continually amaze me. The ability to be who you are at whatever moment is uncanny and unlike anybody else I know. I love you, man. I love the family. Tell your wife and your beautiful daughters I said hello. And until the next time, where can people find you? You want people just to go to danclark.com?
danclark.com. They can find me on Instagram. Yeah, you should like me on Instagram. I need more than 11 international friends.
You got it. You got it.
And Facebook.
You know what your handle is?
Dan Clark Speak. I think it is Dan Clark Speak. You can tell I don't look myself up very often, so I have no idea.
Okay. Hey, what books do you have? Do you have any boxes of stuff at the house?
Do you want me to send you some books that you can send out?
Yeah, you know what I was thinking is if you've got just, I don't know, 4 or 5 things, like just some books, and we'll do is if people,
you know what, how about if we do this? How about if I just give everybody a free download of one of my books right now? They could just pull out their Android, pull out their cell phone, and just go to messages. You know, if you're going to send somebody a message, and dial in the number 801-980-9211. Let me repeat that. Type in the number 801-980-9291, and then type in the word LEAD, 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 and push send. And you should receive a new screen with a link, and that allows you to enter in your name, your email address, and in the next 60 minutes or so or less, you'll get a free download of that book in your inbox on your email. And we can keep in touch. And then if you want some physical books, you know, one of my books that I'm so proud of is my quote book. I believe every story, you know, as we worked on your book together and you just created this masterpiece, one of the things that I think we agreed on is that the idea is to make every story funny, provocative, and emotional. And that's what makes your book so intriguing. You turn the page because you can't wait to see if you're going to laugh again, if you're going to think deeply, or if you're going to cry. And so one of the books I'm most proud of is my joke book. You can get all these books through Amazon. You can go to my website, click on library, go to my books. And, you know, a lot of my books like Getting High, How to Really Do It, that came out in 1983. Those books are really out of print, I think, but I think I still have about 13 or 14 or 15 of my books that are in print.
Awesome.
I'm proud of those. And if you want a good laugh, everybody needs a good laugh. So, you know, buy my joke book. I mean, come on, let's just talk. Let's conclude our time with just a great lesson in life. When I'm an MC at an awards gala, the way I always start is, hey, this is great to be here and celebrate what people are saying behind your back. And everybody kind of goes, so yeah, you've been nominated. People are talking about you behind your back. That's why you're getting the awards. What are people saying behind your back? Army sergeant phones up the commissary. Young private answers the phone. Sergeant says, tell me what we got. Private says, we have 1,500 rifles, 10 tanks, and 1 fat-headed sergeant's jeep. Sergeant says, what? Private says, we have 1,500 rifles, 10 tanks, and 1 fat-headed sergeant's jeep. Sergeant says, do you know who this is? Private says, no. Sergeant says, this is the sergeant. Private says, whoa, you know who this is? Sergeant says, no. He says, good. Bye-bye, fathead. Let's make sure we control what people say behind our back. I've never met anyone who has anything negative to say about you, Kolby. You truly are a man of integrity, a man of character. I can't wait for you to bring Noah back on and celebrate his birthday with him. And with all due respect to anyone in your life, Neva is the sharp young woman that she is at 10 because of her parental influence. And when you are in a constant struggle trying to spend time with your kids, and maybe an ex is barricading that, as so many divorces, as so many people have experienced, tear comes to my eye and thinking, you know what? I wish every kid could be exposed to you, man. You've always just been an extraordinary dad, an extraordinary human being. Any male can be a father, but it takes a special man to be a dad. And you've always risen to the occasion, bro. I want to compliment you on that too, because of all the things that we talk about and laugh about. And as focused as you are on serving others and being that serial entrepreneur, with the payday coming, you know it's going to be big soon. It will be huge because karma is a real thing. Still, you've never lost sight of the importance of family and your love for your children. And they need to tune in and hear Uncle Dan sucking up to their dad, because you are amazing.
Yeah,
you're amazing.
Thanks, man. It's been a battle. My brother, people check out Dan Clark, danclark.com. I will repost the phone number to text. Highly recommend. His books are awesome. I think I've got almost all of them except for the Jimmy Fallon edition. So I'll have to I need to get that. I'll get that as a poster, the cover done, and because I think I have the digital copy of the. I'll make a poster and I'll have you sign it. I'll hang it up in the office. My man, I love you, dude. It is great to see you.
Brother.
And, I'm gonna boot you off. I'm gonna call my son, and we're gonna get moving. Appreciate you, man. Have a great weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
God bless. Stay healthy and safe.
My man.
Yeah.
Later.